Hi guys, so we're going to show how to sew all these pieces together now. So what you're going to need is a yarn needle. I have the one that has a flexible head. I don't know if you can see that, it's a tiny little head, but any yarn needle will do the job. And then a pair of scissors to cut off your tail ends. Doesn't matter which order you sew these into, sew them together. You can do it any order you like, but I'm just going to do one order, but you can swap it around once you know what you're doing. I very cleverly took the ends off both these. Normally I leave up one on one of them to join them, and I forgot. So I'm going to sew one of the legs or arms on first, and then use that tail end to sew these together, because clearly I'm not clever. So the next time you make these, one of these two, leave the tail attached so you can use it to sew together. And don't be an idiot like me. So I'm just going to sort these out so that we've got them all together. It's easy if you have them all organised, then you can easily pick up each piece that you want to pick up next without worrying about anything. Okay, I've actually got a pretty good tail on this ear, so what I'm going to do is sew the ear on, and then I can use that to sew the head and the body together. There's always a way to sew these together without using extra yarn if you can, because it's better that way, because it reduces the weak points. So you're just going to pick whichever direction you want. You know, it is equal, so you can pick anywhere. I tend to just like thumb where roughly I'm going to put the eyes, and it gives us the head shape. And then we're going to sew this on. Now, as you can see, it looks like it's not going to fit, but as you sew, that will fit on quite nicely, and it will actually cause this to curve round as you sew it down, which gives us the nice ear shape that we have here. So don't worry that it doesn't look like it's going to fit, because it's a straight line and a curve. It all works out in the end. But you want to pick roughly where you want this to sit. You can have it in different places. Positioning is up to you. Some people like to put them higher up, some like to put them a little lower down. I actually change where I put them depending on my mood, because each positioning gives the teddy a different look. As you can probably just see with this one, I have them on a slight angle, so it looks like the teddy's tipping his head towards you. You can have it so that it's straight or tipping the other way. It just gives each teddy its own little personality, so don't worry too much about the positioning, but try to keep it reasonably close together. You don't like want one down here and one down here, that would look silly, but you could have one here and one here, so it's really tipping his head down like that. So that's up to you how you do it. Give them all their own little personality. It is fun. So just pick a spot roughly where you want it. I'm going to go there. A good way to pick, if you're not sure, is follow your increase lines. And they both, if you've got two increase lines next to each other, they both work out like that. As you probably just about see the lines. And then sew on the part that you went straight just after the increase line. So good positioning kind of keeps them even when you work around, because of course the increase lines are always even. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm just going to follow the line across, and you can see where you've had your increase. My last increase was here, so I'm just going to go a couple further along so that we go about there. So if I can come closer there. So the increases are along up to here, where it's easier to see if I tip it right. So the increase is finished there, and I've gone 3 rows ahead to start putting the ear in. So we're just going to put it along into that position there. Look. And then what I do, I'll just pull it here a minute so you can see, is I take it through one side of the ear. Ooh. So just this stitch here, you take it through that one side, and then take it through the opposite stitch on the other side. And you're going to be sewing that together as you sew it to the head. Can you see that? So just pull it along, and that makes it secure. So that's going on there, let's see. And then once you've gone through the ear, you want to go into the stitch on the underside. Where you went in that way, you're going to go back in, but you're going to go out that side of it. And from now on, we'll sew that way round. Going the opposite way first just gives it a good anchoring for pulling that very corner of the ear down and in. So now we've gone through there, we're going to go back through the ear, remember through the next stitch each side. We're just going to repeat this step along each time. Make sure you give it a really good pull. You want that really stuck down into there, okay? The less you can see the stitches, the better. You want them to kind of blend into one fabric. So again, it doesn't matter if you loosen it when you move your ear to get to it, but see, we came out of this one, so we're going to go back in that one and out to the next one. Now when you're doing this, it would be much quicker and less fiddly because you don't have to show someone what you're doing, but just make sure you're always pulling it tight. So we're just going to keep repeating that, going through both sides. And then into that stitch. And just follow the line along, because the line naturally curves anyway. It makes it easier for it to follow along its curve. You don't need to cross over unless you want to. If you want to give a really good curve, see, if you wanted to curve it right the way around like that, you could go offline, but I just follow the line down. It still gives a nice curve because of course we worked in a spiral, so that is going to naturally give it a curve. So we went into the head last, so now we're going to go into the ear again. I'm only going to show you how to sew one of each item on because the other side obviously will be the same. So I'll show you one ear, and I'll show you one leg and one arm. And obviously the head, tail and body, there's only one off, so you'll see how to do that on its own. But it doesn't take too long to get this put together. Remember to keep pulling that really nice and tight. Once this is finished sewing, it should actually be able to hold a minimum of 7 kilograms. If it can't hold 7 kilograms, it's not sewn with strong enough material or sewn tight enough. Because that's the weight for EU people have to test their toys to make sure that they stay together. I actually test mine to the safety eye level, which is actually 9.2 kilograms. So every one of my limbs, anything that's sewn on, should be able to have 9.2 kilograms or legally 7 kilograms hung off of this and not full, not come apart. Or become stretched to the point that it becomes accessible to the stuffing. It should be able to stay pretty much where it does, which is what all of mine do. It can be a little stretched out, but otherwise it still looks like it's basically new when you're doing these testing. Until you do the fire test, obviously, because burning it is not going to look new. I'm sorry if you heard my phone then. But yeah, if you want to know more on how to safety test your toys, feel free to message me and ask. I'm not a lawyer or anything, so I can only give you my interpretation of it, but it's the same interpretation a lot of people use because we work in a collective together, so Trade and Standards have approved it, so we must be getting something right. Okay, so now we've done that last ear around here, we're going to go sideways into the stitch and back out just within the stitch. So we've gone slightly in between that stitch. Let's go this way. So we've gone in between that stitch and in between that stitch. So we're going over the row we've been using. That's just going to secure it down more. And you're going to loop into your little loop there. And this gives it a knot. Really pull that tight. You want that snug in there. You see? Now that's not going to go anywhere now. That is well and truly on there, look. See? And you don't really see the stitches. You just see it join as one. And that's what you're looking for, to make sure it's securely done. And you're going to poke in through. Now of course normally you'd weave your ends through and snip the end off, but because I'm a bit of a twit and forgot to leave one of the ends for the head or body, I'm going to use this to sew the head to the body as well. So just going to go through a few times to make sure it's definitely secure here like we normally would. So remember how we're going to sew through the stuffing, so that we know that the thread is well and truly inside this teddy. So as that's my right ear, or his left ear, I'm going to sew the head down here. So this is where I'm going to want to leave my tail end, down here somewhere. Doesn't matter if you don't get it in the exact right place, you can always move it. But so you're going to sew the other ear on, but I'll do that later and we'll move straight on to the body, okay? So here's the body, and this is the top, that's the bottom, because you can see where we've had to tie off. So that's the side you want to sew the head to, because it just hides any messy finishing offs. Now, when you put it on, you want to make sure you've got a few rows out. Don't just sew the 6 stitches we have here. So minimum of 12, if not the 18 stitch row, because you want to make sure that is really secure on there. And once you've sewn it, you can shape it a little and it gives it a little neck. But you see, that's minimum of the 12, if not the 18 stitch row, so that it's really on there quite secure. And again, it becomes part of the item. So just pick, best thing I always do is start with the 12 row, and then if it's not secure enough for you, you can go out to the 18, because you can't over sew these. It's a good thing to have them sewn really well. So I'm just going to pick a spot here, and see, and we're going through and under the stitch. We're just going to pull that up. I'm just going to want it to sit just on there, let's say. Now remember, if you're wanting your head to have a little action, you could tip it that way or that way. You could have it tipping forward. You can have it however you want, but for the minute we're just going to rest it on there. And we're going to go in roughly where we came out and under the stitch there. And we're just going to start joining them. So we're going to go into the next stitch. So where we came out of, we're going into that one and underneath and back out the other way, just like we did with the ear. And we're just going to work around. Now obviously you'd follow the head around for a little bit along that line, but then obviously as we're turning, you'll have to go across the rows of the head, not stick to the stitch, the row that you're on, because it curves around. But I'll show you that in just a second once we've done a couple more here. Okay, so we've got to the point here where we don't really want to follow that along there anymore. We want to start going across. So you're going to go into the stitch above the one you came out of, and then you're just going to go across to the next one on the next line. And this gently increases it both ways that way. And then continue going on the round on the bottom. And again, you're going to go into the next one in the line and across to the other side, so that you're working along. I've accidentally put a knot in my thing, so but don't worry about it. And we're just going to keep following this around. I think one more time around here should do the job. Okay, so now we're working on the back. We're going to start following the path along again. So again, we're going to go into the one above and across to the next row, and then that's the row we're going to follow along from now on. So I'm just going to go in. So this is the row we came out of, so we're going to follow along that row now. As I said, if it becomes too wobbly after we've done this, you can always go back around, following around onto the new line. So don't worry too much if it ends up being too thin. Just remember, you really want it to be able to take that weight, so it has to have a good amount of stitches sewn down, and you really need to be making sure you're pulling that nice and tight. You can reshape the head after, so don't worry if you're squishing it where you pull it tight. Okay, so we're now at the point we're going to go across again, so you're going to go into that one that you've been working along and then go into one row across. Continue following your main path on the body around. Don't forget, it does spiral, so at one point you will naturally jump from one row to the other, but you'll be able to see where you need to finish. So just try to ease it into it. Once you've done a few of these, you'll be able to easily see which path you need to follow and when you need to jump back to the original path because of the spiral. There we go. So you can see that is on there nice and secure. So now this is when you make a decision, is it on there tight enough? Do you need any more? Have a really good look around at the sort of positioning you have, the sort of neck you have, and whether it's gonna be. And I think this is pretty good. You wouldn't want to go any narrower than this. This is as narrow as you really want to go. If you want a thinner neck, create a thinner neck when you're crocheting it. And then sew around thicker, because you don't want to have too thin a piece for this, because you can really grab these and pull them, so a child could yank it, and so it has to be strong enough to withstand that. Okay, so we're just going to finish off like we normally do. So we're just going to go into a stitch near it and around under the stitch and pop into the thing and give it a really good pull. Do it a couple of times if you want to, just to make sure it's thoroughly in. And then we're going to go in and we're going to want to pull hard enough to put that knot inside. So really give it a pop. You'll hear it pop and then it goes on the inside. And then you're going to want to sew your end around several ways to make sure it's well and truly in there. Remember to always go back in where you come out, just go into a different angle, because that way you don't end up pulling the body on the outside. Nobody will see that you've pulled on the inside. So once you're sure you've gone in enough times and that the end is well and truly in there, pick somewhere to come out. I always pick roughly where you're going to stick an arm or a leg, because that way you can hide any ends if they choose to stick out slightly. So we're just going to pull it tight when you're snipping it, because that usually makes it bounce back in. But if by leaving it where we're going to stick an arm, if it doesn't fully bounce in, you can secure it down with the arm instead. So this is where you're going to want to just quickly reshape after squishing the life out of your poor teddy. There we go, so that's the head on. Now, don't worry if he's leaning to the side or anything. Once you finish sewing him together, you can reshape him to where you need him. It's just because we're squishing, it's a little off shape. Once that other ear is on, that shape will even up again and all that. So now we're going to move on to doing some arms. Now again, there's several ways you can sew the arm on, and again each one gives a different personality. So this one, I've gave him a slightly longer looking neck by sewing his arms here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew his arms up the top so you can see what it looks like that way as well. So you can have different ways of sewing him. So don't forget to shape your arm, because what you're going to do is you're going to sew that flat to there. Okay, so you want to roughly look down the side of your ear, down the centre of the body there, and then take your end, see which side your arm is. If it's that side, which I probably will do, it's easier, where's your end? So you're going to pick where you want it, and then you're just going to pick up the stitch across and underneath, and again pull it tight, and we're going to go into the top and see, we're going through both sides again, just like we did with the ear, but it gets harder to see at this point because obviously we're working into it. You're going to need to hold your arm still when you're doing this so you can keep it going flat, but we've just gone into the arm, so we're going to go underneath into here. I'm one row below where we've sewn the head, if you can't quite see that. I'm just going to pull it in, and again go in through the arm, back through the body, and that gets the top of the arm sewn down there. But we're also going to want to sew part of this bit to the body because that makes it more secure. So we turn it around. So we went into the body last, so we're going to go into the arm, and you're going to go to one row below, and we're just going to sew into that stitch there, and go one row below where you sewed for the arm already. Transfer that. Again, you can sew further down if needs be once you've done this initial sewing, depending on how much you want the arm to be able to move or stay still, but always make sure you're pulling that nice and tight. And we're doing just like we sewed for the head and the ear, we're sewing along that curve on both items because that naturally helps them sit together. Now you want to quickly just go across there so that you're joining the arm on that side. And you've basically just sewn in a circle all the way around. So the arm can sit out at that sort of angle. If you want it to be more of this sort of angle I've done here, you're going to sew slightly further down. So if you like it at this angle, just sew round in the same spaces one more time to make sure it's secure because you're using only a few stitches. But I like my arms to be slightly further down, so I'm going to go back around. So I'm just going to go back in where we went in just now and come back out just to the side there. And then I'm going to do one more row down. So just grab your arm and do the next row down on your arm and the next row down on your body. And you can keep making little adjustments like this until you get the arm looking just how you want it. Remember, when you get to the end, go back up so you're basically sewing into the circle so it's nice and secure. Go back around and come out this side. By this point it's getting a little fiddly because obviously you've sewn a lot around there, so there's a lot to work through. But that's good because you know it's well and truly secure. And then do any shaping you want to do. And I think that's pretty good for the minute. See, so he's pretty secure all the way down here, but he's still got some nice movement. And you can be played around by the kids. If you could fully secure him down if you wanted, and they wouldn't be able to move, but I like the kids to be able to move his arm around but still be so secure. You can see that's really worked in, it's not coming out anywhere. Sorry, voice is going a bit funny there. So again, we're going to secure this off. I like to go to the underside of the arm to secure it because you can hide the knot easier. So just thread your needle down and through, and we're going to just go around that stitch like we always do and thread in through, so we're looping it through. Really pull it tight, you want that well and truly secure. And then you're going to poke all the way through. And again, we're going to do the same as before. We're just going to randomly take this through several different directions so that it's secure. By the time you finish your teddy, you're going to have a maze of yarn ends hidden within your stuffing. And as it gets older and the stuffing compresses, they're just going to all press together and secure each piece even more, which is what you want. I think one more time should do the job. This time I'm going to take it down around to roughly where we'll have a leg, so that it's within that. And again, pull it tight as you snip it, because then it will bounce back in and hide away. So that's the first arm on and the first ear. So as I said, I won't show you the other arm because it's pretty much the same, just on this side. So now we're going to do a leg. I will show you the whole finished teddy, but I'll sew the rest on off camera because you don't really need to see it all. So we're doing the same thing. You're going to shape your leg against your body. Now this is your choice. You can either have him sat down, so his leg that way, or you can have him stood up, so you'd have his leg that way. Now I like my teddies to be able to sit down, so I do them all like this, just that way they can sit on the shelf easier. But it's up to you. If you want to sew it that way, you're going to do the same thing, it's just going to be in a different angle than mine. But if you're going to be sewing it sat down, make sure it's low enough that the bottom can go flat and the legs will help stabilise it there. Okay, so just always give your little bottom so it's going a little flatter there, and then you can work out where the base of the leg also needs to sit. And you want the tip of the leg to sit roughly in line to where the back of the arm is. So we're going around here, and then we're going to sew basically the same way we've done the arm. So we're just going to pick your spot to start to go in, and then we're going to sew through the leg. Remember to pull it tight as you do, and go in and around. And we're going to sew along the leg, but we're going to sew, it's a bit harder to show, not along this bit, but tucked in down here, so that stitches get hid underneath. So you will need to like twist it a little, but you can tighten this up as you go. It's probably going to be a little more difficult for me to show on camera. Let's try it that way. So we're just going in, and you can see it's down on the inside there that won't get seen. And this is going to secure it neatly to the body. So we're going to follow that line that we're sewing into down here. So just go along. We're only going to sew a couple along, and then we're going to go down again. So bend it down and around. Long one more. I said a couple, but what I really meant was a few. We're doing 3 along. Now we've done long, we're going to start securing it down on the underside here. So we're going to go, we've done 3 along, so we're going to work along here and secure that down. So we're in the leg last, so you're going to see where that forms to, which is on this line here. We're just going to go into the stitch below it and pull that tight, and then follow the spiral that you're already on for the leg. And again, just follow down. And at this point here, you're going to want to start going across the leg lines again, and we're going to follow the spiral on the body. Okay, so you can see where we started. We're going to go one below where we started on here, because that will then secure that down. So I'm going to just go across the spiral of the leg there, and now go one more row down. So here, we started on this row, we're going to go down to the one below it, pull it into that one, and go in where we came out. Again, if it's not secured down enough, you can always go back and redo it. Remember to keep pulling that nice and tight. And then by this point, should be the last one. You get your needle in and through the stitch. Okay. Now we're going to work back up the body and along the edge of the leg that we've already secured down. We're just going to re-secure that down, because obviously that's where we started, so it is the weakest point at the moment. So we always finish back off there to make sure that we thoroughly have that down. And so that's how we got the leg so far. Again, make a decision if you think it's secure enough or whether you want to do another row in. I like them to have a little play, so if they did think they could move it down a little, but they generally stay in that position. You see how it just bends down there. So gives them a little bit of play so they could pretend that it was walking along, but it's actually secure enough that it will just stay sat. He's only got one leg on at the moment, so he might not be too stable because the other leg stabilises him, but there we go, he sits down. So once you've decided you've done enough, again give a really good pull, and then go round a stitch that you want to secure off. Ideally you'd sew round and hide it in there, but I'm going to show going back through. Just pick your stitch, and you want to come back out just where the leg is joined, so that you can go round that stitch and go through the loop. And then you can go back down and through and weave in your ends, and nobody will see. Remember to pull it so that knot gets hidden inside, nobody will see it. So make sure it's really pulled. If you're pulling tight enough, you should see the arms and legs and all that move when you pull them. You see how that moves as I'm pulling it? That shows I'm pulling it fully as tight as it can go, which is what you want. So just keep going through a few times. You can never weave in too much. You want it to always be nice and secure. Find your end. There we go. I'm just going to move across to around there, because that's where we're going to hide the other end with the leg. There we go, and that's the leg done. So that's half of the body done. So what I'm going to do is we're going to sew on the tail, and then off camera I'll sew the rest of this and show you it when it's finished. So grab the tail. Okay, so what you want to do is just not drop the tail end. That's what you want to do. Okay, the tail wants to sit just above where he's going to sit as well. So roughly the same line is where the legs are. It doesn't have to be exact, but try to be roughly the same place. See here? Now, what you're going to do is you're going to sew around the 12 line. So the second line in, you're going to go on 12, and that should secure him in enough because he's so small. So find where your tail end is attached and put that for the bottom, the lowest point you want to go. See around here, and then just pop it in. Get it round, there we go. You can pull that in place. And that gives you some places to manoeuvre to make sure you want it to reasonably line up down the centre. And obviously, depending on what angle you put your head, you might not get it in between the two ears because you may have that tilted off. So don't worry about lining it up in the ears unless you're doing your head perfectly straight. You want it down the centre. And you're going to do what we did before. You're going to follow around the body for 2 stitches and then into row 2, and this just secures it on the bottom row. And then you're going to start working around the spiral of the tail and up the body. So we're on this row, we're going to go back in there and out there. I'm going to go back into the second row, the 12, and then one more time up the body. Now you're going to be working across the body. Don't worry if he looks like he's going off for the minute. Once you've sewn him down, it'll be fine, I promise. And across around the spiral again. Across the body one more time. And now we're going to work down the body and around the spiral again still. Now remember, because we're working a spiral, it will disappear off to the one that you're working on. So just make a judgment call where you switch back down to the correct line just to hide it in. Sorry if you heard my phone then, I forgot to put it on silent and it goes off twice. No one messaged me all day, every day, and then start filming and suddenly people are messaging me. So I'm just following this along. So by this point you'll be going back down onto that body, and remember we did 2 across it. So you should meet back up where you started from. Might be a little difficult to see because of course by this point it's already pretty secure down. Make sure you've got that nice and tight, and there is your tail. So again, just do check all around to make sure it's thoroughly secure and tight. Give it a really good pull and then secure it off when you're happy. And again, weaving your ends securely so that you're popping that knot right onto the inside. Secure this around. This is why I always say leave a really good tail end when you finish off your work, so that you can really work this all the way around the teddy. It may be a bit overkill, but I'd rather have too much than not enough, you know. So I'm going to just work down to roughly where the leg will be next, so that we hide the end within. Okay. So remember, pull that tight so it pops back in when you snip it off. There we go. Okay, so I will sew the rest of the body together and then be back to show you it finished. Hi guys, so this is him all finished. You can see I've gave him a tilt to his head and he's asking for a hug. So he's just like, can I have a hug? But this is him all finished. His little arms. As you see, I did one ear further down to give the head tilt. If you put him up here, then he'd just look straight. But I wanted to give him a little head tilt. I like giving them all little personalities. So you can see the difference here between the basically straight on and the little head tilt asking for a hug. So he's like, can I have a hug? And you can see the difference in the arms. This one further down giving him more of a neck, and this one's kind of, he's scrunched up saying, can I have a hug? How many times am I going to say, can I have a hug? But there you go, this is basically, and he does sit just like the other one. They sit down quite nicely, and this is the back. See, so you can give them their own little personalities, and I really like that. You could keep them all the same, straight on, with every same pose, but I like everyone to have their own little unique, so they have different faces and everything. I'm still not very good at doing faces. I tend to do like French knots, embroidery stitch French knot for the eyes, and then a smiley face or something, or maybe do a sleepy eyes. So I'm not going to show you how to do the face because it's not something I'm particularly good at, so I shouldn't be teaching people. So if you're not sure on the face, I'm sure if you search on YouTube somebody's going to have one, or Pinterest. But the actual teddy, we are now done. So I hope you like our little teddies. And please do share any teddies that you have finished on my YouTube group on Facebook. It's Sonia Jones YouTube group, simple name, easy to find. There is some questions for you to answer, just so I know that you're joining because you crochet, not because you're going to spam my group, because you'll be surprised how many of them try. If you like seeing all these little tutorials, do let me know down below. And if you want to support me, you don't have to buy anything to support me. You could literally give me a thumbs up on the video and share the video. If you do want to support me with buying, there's my Hippie Life shop, or you can find my Sonia Jones Crafts shop on Facebook and you could buy something there. Or I do have a Patreon account if you would like to do a monthly support. But as I said, you never have to pay any money to support a YouTuber. You can just do the like, thumbs up, share it all, and that's really good help and keeps us going for making these things. So if you want to share your teddies, pop along to the Facebook group. Yeah, that's about it really. I'll see you all later. You take care. Bye.